This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go-to venture capital firm for product-first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Renee Niemi, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Well, good afternoon. I have with me today Sidd Mantri. He is the former chief product officer of Disney Plus in the developing markets. So welcome, Sidd. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite a while. I want to just start by saying congratulations on being selected as a finalist for Chief Product Officer 2024. How does it feel to be one of the best Chief Product Officers in the world?
Well, good afternoon to you, and thank you. It's humbling, it's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think it's very kind of you to have me here. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, listen, what I would love to do is go ahead and get started. I know that you are currently in transition, but would love for you to just speak loosely about the work that you've been doing over the last 5 years for the companies you've been with, and what's been kind of the customers and problems you've solved in the role that you've been in.
Yeah. So, my last role was with the Walt Disney Company as their chief product officer for Disney Plus developing markets. Perhaps a lesser known fact is that Disney Plus for markets like India, Indonesia, the Middle East, all of Africa is a highly customized and a hyper-local product, which is built for the unique demographics of these markets. Whether it's extremely high mobile consumption, very cheap data, very low credit card penetration, highly fragmented payment ecosystem, typically lower purchase power. And so the way the Disney Plus streaming product is built for all of these markets is very different. And we focus on the customers in these parts of the world, given these unique challenges. And so we focus on mobile consumption and primarily Android driven. The business model is completely different. Now ad supported tiers are a common thing across all the major streaming businesses across the world. But we've been doing hybrid ad supported and subscription supported business model. So we call it hybrid AWOD, SWOD. We've been doing it for the last 6-7 years, and very successfully. We have more than 200 million monthly active users in just one market in India at our peak. We've done more than 50 million subscribers just from one market. And we have a single platform and a single service, one single app that gives you access to all of the web series and the web shows, all of the Disney content, all of the Indian television content, because Disney runs a very large television network in India. And one of our most popular content formats is what we call as catch-up television. And so, if you missed an episode of your favorite soap opera yesterday, you can catch it up on demand. And we've actually innovated that, taken it to one step further, where customers on our platform, they can watch your television shows on the day it's supposed to telecast, but they can watch it anytime they want, before it gets telecast on that day. And so if you're on the streaming platform, you can basically watch a show that will come up on television at 9 p.m. You can watch it at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Oh,
So
spoiler alert, right?
yeah, it is spoiler alert, and I think that's been one of the many unique things that have made us successful. And we offer live sports on the same platform, and so you don't have to download and install a different app for television and a different one for sports and a different one for web content. And in fact, sports is actually our live sports is our USP. We hold the world record for the largest live streaming event ever in the world in terms of consumption. We did 59 million live streaming concurrent viewers at the same time watching the final of the 2023 World Cup cricket match last year. And funnily enough, all the previous records for the highest concurrency of people watching live sports on our platform at the same time, they've all been ours. And so we kind of pride ourselves as we keep breaking our own records. But 59 million is the largest ever in the world.
Wow, that's amazing. I, for one, have had the pleasure of speaking with you before, and I know that in addition to obviously building out some pretty amazing user experiences, that you've opened up many new markets for the Disney Plus platform as well, and it's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, what I would love to do is dive in a little bit, and I'd love to have just a quick conversation on your thoughts specifically of the role of Chief Product Officer. I think that you have a unique lens, a lens that probably maybe even 5 years ago, I'm not even sure there would be a chief product officer, or maybe a chief technology officer at Disney, but I'm not even sure that that even existed, the Disney Plus. So I would just love to get your perspective of kind of, how the role has evolved over the last few years from your lens, and then would love for you to project into the future on how you think the role is going to continue to evolve, given where we're at, given especially given AI and where that's going. There's just so many moving parts. Would just love your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for asking this question. I've always thought of um, my journey and my evolution as a product leader has come from two main dimensions. In a lot of times when I'm in overselling mode, I introduce myself as I spent 12 to 13 years in Silicon Valley at Microsoft, extended Silicon Valley. And so I kind of bring uh, this inherent, incredible, culture of innovation and the latest cutting edge technology, kind of getting married with the hustle and the scale and the speed and the extremely hyperlocal sense of product development that exists in Asia. And I've worked in Southeast Asia with Grab, as well as extensively worked in India, and now all 50 plus developing markets that I was responsible for with Disney Plus. And so when you bring together the culture of very strong innovation and the latest in technology with the hustle and scale and the hyperlocal nature of how products get built in Asia, I think that's how my perspective has been colored and shaped, and you'll see that in the rest of our conversation. What I've experienced is that the chief product officer, or whatever was the equivalent before this role came about. And you're right, even at Microsoft, I think the first person who had the title of a chief product officer was only over the last 5 or 6 years. It didn't exist before that. Um, and that was also for a specific division. Um, and so I think it started in technology companies with an extremely technical bend on the role, but over time, it's evolved into what I'll call as the four main aspects of being a product leader. Whether you're a chief product officer or a senior director, I think these four things apply to all senior product leaders. The first one is what I call as customer focus. Lots of people call it customer obsession, customer centricity.
Yeah.
I just prefer saying customer focus so it doesn't sound like a buzzword. And what that means is for me, how I define it is the ability to outperform and outserve customers beyond their stated requirements or needs. And doing that requires one to consistently and persistently deliver what I call as unexpected surprise and delight. And there's a completely unintentional Disney innuendo over here because surprise and delight are like the two main pillars of the Disney experience if you ever go to a Disney park. I didn't know this. I've been saying surprise and delight and unexpected surprise and delight for 6 or 7 years now. But when I came to Disney, I was, much to my surprise, my own surprise, no pun intended, I was told these are the exact kind of, emotional themes that drive the experience for customers in the Disney theme parks. So that's number one. And the way I summarize it is one has to earn customer trust. Trust is an emotion, and it's inherently linked to the way to earn trust is to earn customers' love. And so, to win an emotion, you have to deliver an emotion, and delivering that emotion is basically what, producing these moments of unexpected surprise and delight is. I like to call them power moments. And so once I've explained to my teams what a power moment is, when you outperform customer needs and serve the requirements that they didn't even know they had, um, that's when you're unexpectedly surprising and delighting them. And that generates power moments. And so I kind of think of my job as to generate power moments. Like that's my number one job, is generate as many power moments for my customers as possible. But I think what's happening to that is it's getting attached to CPOs being responsible for delivering business outcomes. And so, my job number two has always been crafting a strategy that unifies business outcomes with customer outcomes, and more precisely, delivering business outcomes through customer outcomes. And I've been in situations where there are trade-offs between the two, or they're somehow pitted against each other. And every time I see that, I know that's a warning signal. And you have to find a way to and them rather than choose either or. Uh, and then as a leader, and this is applicable as a people leader for any business or any organization, not just CPO or not just tech organizations, is to amplify your team's throughput. And that's possible only if you were able to create what I call as a high performance culture. And so those are like the four things I think are getting stronger as the CPO role evolves: customer focus, um, delivering a strategy that unifies business and customer outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
amplifying your organization's throughput, and creating a high performance culture that enables people to do the best work of their life. Like the bar I set for myself, and the question I ask my team is, am I creating an environment that makes you believe you're doing the best work of your life?
I love that. And I love the way that you take ownership of not just the work and the outcomes, but the environment in which you set up that enable that great work. That's That's amazing stuff. What would you say when you kind of look at your career, either as a product manager or growing up through the chain? What would you say is your secret sauce, and how did it contribute to your success? And if you have a story to share with us, all the better. We would love to hear it.
Um, Secret sauce. I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit. Um, I, I think the unique thing about being a product manager, and you're a product manager first, and then you become a product leader. I think the unique thing about product managers is um, product managers don't really build anything tangible that gets into the hands of the customers. In the sense that, product managers are not writing code, they're not testing code, they're not shipping code, they're not designing the experience, at least not directly per se. You have, UX designers to do that. And so the tangible output that a product manager, especially when I was much, much younger in my career and early in my career, I would always position my role as, and it creates a lot of humility for, for the value that you're supposed to bring, is that I'm not creating anything tangible that gets into the hands of the customers. And so effectively, product managers are, the best superpower they can deliver is effectively become the binding glue that brings everything together that's required to build a successful product, and now increasingly a successful business. And so, because I had that grounding from very early on in my career, where sometimes I would question exactly what value am I bringing, and if tomorrow I didn't exist, would it make a difference to the product I'm building? And that's where uh, my skills and my perspective is shaped from. And so I would say my superpower is the ability to get stuff done. And I think that ability to get stuff done kind of stems out of the humility and realization of the fact that product managers are not building anything directly tangible. And so the value that you have to bring to the table is um, identifying your customer needs, and I use the term needs and not requirements, because the needs have to be observed and derived, and not necessarily, it's not as simple as going and doing a quant survey. It requires a deep level of both observation, and that's why I love being out in the field and doing research, as well as being deep in the data, because the data gives you insights that helps you scale, because there's only so many field research interviews one can do. And so it comes from a deep sense of customer empathy, both from data, which is quantitative as well as qualitative, and the ability to create strong relationships. And that's how you kind of become the glue that brings everything that's required together. And so building strong relationships, and I define that as creating win-wins. The secret sauce to building relationships and collaboration is basically identifying win-wins. And it's never a zero-sum game when it comes to building relationships and creating collaboration. There's always opportunities to create win-wins. And there are times when I kind of think of it as, you kind of go about your life signing blank checks and receiving them, and you encash them when it's the need of the hour, or when you need help.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, most people love to help.
Yeah. It's so true. So my summary, and I have just this great visual now of Sid. Sid's superpower is he is He is the super glue of bringing products to market.
Yeah, and that super glue has to thread the customers,
Everyone,
the
right?
experience, the business, the people, the team, and the culture. All of this has to come together.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It does not surprise me that that is your superpower. Um, so let me shift gears for a moment, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about, your growth as a leader. We all are influenced by either people we've worked with, leaders that we've observed from afar. Some of us have had the pleasure of working for amazing leaders. I would just love to know, whether it's direct, indirect, who or who has had the most influence on who you are as a product leader.
There's just so many. I've been very lucky, in I've had the chance to work with some of the most incredible leaders and mentors. I think if I'm gonna have to pick one person, um, maybe picking one is hard, but I think I'm gonna, maybe bring a little bit of a personal angle over here. I think my wife is probably the biggest influence over the last decade or so. We've been married for almost 10 years, and more than 10 years. Um, and she's a UX designer. She's a design leader. She also works in tech. And every possible myth I've had about my strengths, she's kind of been the best sounding board to, see through the fact that it's a myth, or the fact that, I'm kind of heading in the wrong direction. And so she is, I kind of refer to her as my GPS. And it's true, both professionally as well as personally. And I think, just going back to the previous question you asked me, the ability to get stuff done, whether you call it, hustle, or whether you call it, the ability to connect dots that, don't necessarily seem connected. I think that's a skill that can be honed. And the good news is there's never a, kind of a terminal state of that skill, because, you can always get better at it. And I feel like I have so much to do. Although I'm calling it my superpower, I feel like there's just so much I need to improve on it. And I think my wife, because she comes from a design background, she has a completely different approach and perspective to how she sees things. And we are one of those couples that does spend our time at the dining table, having dinner, discussing work, and we're very comfortable doing it. um, and obviously do it in a way that we're very professional about it. But we do bounce ideas of each other, and we do use each other as sounding boards. And I think I use her a lot more than perhaps the value I offer to her. But I think she's just made me a significantly stronger product leader, because I came from a technical perspective growing as a product leader. And I think she has given me a big head start, on in to see things from a design perspective, which just creates this balance that I feel is very unique.
I love that. How fortunate you are to have a partner, a life partner, that is also, a coach, and, a balancing act for you, at work. How wonderful that is. I'd love to ask you about. This feels like a hard pivot. Because that was such a touching, uh, story about your wife. But, one of the ways that the role of product management has really evolved over the last few years is, once upon a time, is our role to, deliver a product that meets a need, and our focus is which technologies, what do we prioritize, all those kind of things that product managers do. But over the last couple years, less than 5 for sure, this notion of owning growth and not just the delivery of the digital product, but actually the adoption of the digital product and the discovery of the digital product, and all of those pieces have become increasingly a more important part of our roles as chief product officers. I would just love your point of view on how you think about growth in the context of product. Do you separate it? Is it just part of how you think about, just tell me how you think about growth?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I've tried both the models. Should growth be this separate entity and be thought of separately, or should it be embedded as a part of the inherent product development process? I've done both, and uh, you know, I usually don't do politically right answers, but this one I'm just going to start outright that both work and both cannot work.
Right.
Um, and I think, the term product-led growth, or PLG, it's become a bit of a buzzword, and I try and stay away from it because I don't even know why product-led growth gets talked about as this explicit thing that's being done. I mean, it's basically, it should be 101. It needs to be a part of the inherent DNA of how products get built. Um, and so, you asked me earlier about how the role of product leaders, or CPO, is evolving. I think one of the interesting things that's happening is the function and the responsibilities of what, in large organizations gets referred to as product marketing or inbound product marketing. I think that is getting merged into the product manager discipline, and a lot of organizations are no longer distinguishing or differentiating between a product manager and an inbound product marketer. And I think that's a function of the fact that growth is inherently thought to be a part and parcel of how products get built. And so, a great example I can tell you is I was fortunate to be working for a technology media startup called MX Player. It's based out of India, and it's the largest AWARD premium content platform in the world after YouTube. We had like 1 billion plus downloads on Google Play Store alone. Our Play Store rating has always been 4.5 plus. So at that scale, 1 billion plus downloads and still keeping a 4.5 plus Play Store rating, it needs some special sauce, using the term you referred to earlier. And that can't happen through inorganic growth. Of course we did performance marketing, and of course we invested in ATL marketing, but you can't get to that scale unless the product itself has inherent growth loops, whether they are referrals or whether it is word of mouth. I think all of these are valid tools and techniques. But my funnest story while I was at MX is TikTok was banned in India, and we built the what we call as the Indian TikTok, and we call it Takatak, which has a local meaning in India. And so gave it a familiar sounding name, but with something that made sense for the customers in India. And we grew it from nothing, from zero, to 150 to 160 million monthly active users
Wow.
in less than 10 months. So, before we even hit our 1 year anniversary, we were at 150 million plus monthly active users. And you can't do that unless your product has inherent uh, growth loops. And so it needs, doing things like, especially with this product, we over-indexed on getting people to share the videos. And so initially we were kind of normal kind of product logic would say, hey, let's encourage customers if they like a video to press the heart button. And then we very quickly we realized if we encourage people to share videos, and if we rank and promote content that is very shareable, it creates inherent growth loops because people are going to share it on WhatsApp or on Facebook or whatever it is. And we didn't have a separate growth team at the time because we were like this small ninja team, less than 10 people who began and eventually grew. Um, and so that I think has convinced me that if you're over-indexing on agility and speed and velocity, I think growth has to be an inherent part of how products get built. Perhaps when the product reaches a certain level of maturity, and then we did with the Indian TikTok, we call it MX Takatak. Then I think it's time to think about growth as a separate thing, as a separate team, as a separate set of people. And I define it as that team then needs to be empowered and given the license to fail fast, significantly faster than anyone else does. Because the other teams, the other functions, the other pods, as we call them, they'll have their priorities, they'll have their backlogs, they'll have some debt. And while they can engineer growth into newer products they build right from the outset, and I'll always hold that bar. But when the product reaches a certain maturity, then it does make sense if you have the ability to fund that kind of an organization, to create a separate growth organization that's focused on failing fast, running these what I call as high risk high reward experiments. But most important is velocity, um, because they don't have to necessarily do production quality code. Their job is to go really fast with hypotheses and validate them that can get you from the 100 to 1,000. Um, and it's needed if your traditional pods have matured and have an established backlog of stuff that they have to do and cannot afford running these high risk high reward experiments.
Yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting. I love the balanced approach. What a crazy growth story, though. So you're definitely speaking from experience, and making sure that when you actually build it at that scale, that you actually have the infrastructure to support it, so it doesn't crash it. Right? Amazing. Amazing story. Well, listen, our time has gone so fast. I can't believe it's almost over. But I can't let you sneak out of here without a question on AI, because it wouldn't be product if we didn't talk about AI for at least a nanosecond. So my question for you is specifically around the role of product management and the impact of AI tools, and AI as a technology on the role of product management. Is AI going to replace product managers?
Well, I hope not, for my own job security.
Me too, by
Um,
the way.
yeah, jokes apart, I don't think so. I think the word AI has become another buzzword. AI has been around for at least a decade, if not more. I mean, I've been using supervised machine learning for solving all kinds of interesting problems, at least for the last 6 to 7 years, if not more, as far as my memory can go right now. And so AI has been around for a while. It's been around for at least a decade. I've been using, graph embedding, and classification and regression models for the last 6 or 7 years. I think Netflix was probably the, kind of the first one to build a recommendation system that was superior to anything else that was known at the time. I think TikTok has a recommendation service, and they've made it available as a SaaS service now. And so they're all using AI. I think what's happened over the last couple of years, maybe, is generative AI has become really powerful because the performance of large neural networks has significantly improved. Um, and so generative AI has had an impact on every job function, including the product management function. And I think what it has done is, it's created tools that is making it simpler and easier for what I referred to earlier, the evolution of the product management job. Because, you're now expected not just to be a technology representative or a customer representative, you're also expected to be a business representative.
That's right.
I think it's become easier now for product managers to use design tools to create a fairly high quality, high fidelity mock. It's become significantly easier for product managers to run queries. You don't have to necessarily learn, the deep kind of SQL syntax. You can use natural language to run queries. You can, point AI or generative AI to a data source and ask questions in just normal human language with all the co-pilots that are being built. And so I think it's made the job of a product manager significantly more impactful, easier to do more as these design analytics kind of responsibilities or skills start getting merged into the product management function. um, and I think that basically means that the throughput and productivity of a product manager is, going to significantly improve. But at the core of the heart of a product manager is creativity. It's a creative job. A product manager's job is creation. And I don't think that is going to be replaced by AI. I think AI is definitely providing tools that can exploit and create an extremely high level of efficiency for manifesting that creativity with larger impact. But those creative jobs, that's basically that the human creativity is irreplaceable, at least at this point. And I think we are many, many years away from that being replaced, if at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Interesting perspective. It's alarming because you say creativity, but depending on the slice, you probably have a very informed perspective on this, given your wife is a designer. But a lot of these new tools you're saying, like, really basic, work that used to take hours and hours and hours can now be significantly accelerated. And so my hope is the non-value add activities and work that a product manager has done gets diminished and replaced and augmented by AI, allowing for the product manager to actually spend quality time on the things that are going to make the difference, whether it's immersing themselves in a customer environment, whether it's facilitating the creativity. But I 100% agree with you that they're not replacing. The hope is that this is you Mecca coming to to product management, because it's just going to make us so much more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what it's also done is, I think the risk or the fears are coming from the fact that for, good or bad reasons, the product management function had probably started to perverse a little bit in terms of uh, a lot of um, a lot of product managers were not really doing product management. They were doing project management,
Yeah.
or they were backlog managers. Um, and I think because of the efficiencies that are coming in, like you said, uh, the product management function is getting a little more homogeneous across the industry. And some of the perverse flavors of product management are starting to get eliminated, which is a good thing for the discipline in general. And I think some of the fears come from the fact that these perverse variations of product management are getting eliminated, and that gets sometimes interpreted or perceived as, oh, product management is under threat. I think what's happening is those perverse variations are under threat and getting eliminated. And that's a good thing in general. It is painful, but it is a good thing in general moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. It's time to, if you're in that category, it's time to be reframing and rethinking about what product management really is, and upskilling your capabilities. Listen, said I've had so much fun talking to you. I could keep going forever, but I have a feeling that our time has come to a close. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Yeah, no, thanks to you. This was fun. It was a pleasure doing this, and thanks to Products That Count as well. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to our continued association.
I love it. Thank you.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.